Your brain is the most powerful weapon you will ever own. But most people never learn how to use it. They react, they panic, they repeat, and then wonder why life keeps outsmarting them. The truth is, your mind was never designed to make you rich or successful. It was designed to keep you safe. And that means it will always choose comfort over growth, fear over faith, and survival over greatness, unless you retrain it. The people who rise in this world aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who can think the clearest when everything is on fire. In this message, you're going to learn how to train your brain to outsmart fear, pressure, and chaos, to become the kind of thinker who never gets cornered, who never loses control, who always finds a way out. Because when your mind becomes strategic, every obstacle turns into opportunity. Let's begin. Every empire begins in the mind. Before a man wins on the battlefield, he first conquers the chaos within. Because the mind untrained, undisciplined, will betray you faster than any enemy ever could. Most people live their entire lives reacting. Something happens. They panic. Someone criticizes them. They defend. Profile. They quit. They call it normal. But normal isn't power. Normal is autopilot. A brain wired for survival, not success. You were born with a brain designed to protect you from threats, not create your future. And unless you retrain it, it will keep choosing safety over growth. Every single time, it will whisper, "Don't risk it." It will remind you of every failure, every embarrassment, every pain. It will tell you that hesitation is wise and that dreaming is dangerous. But that's not wisdom, that's programming. The untrained mind reacts. The trained mind responds. The difference is mastery. When your mind is untrained, it becomes emotional, impulsive, chaotic. It sees a problem and collapses. But when your mind is trained, it becomes strategic. It sees the same problem and calculates. It slows down when others rush. It listens when others shout. It observes patterns, or connected dots, and makes moves no one sees coming. This is how great men, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, outsmarted the world. They didn't have more talent. They simply had more clarity. They had minds that obeyed their will. Napoleon Hill called it organized thinking. It's the ability to take 1,000 random thoughts and direct them like soldiers toward one definite aim. And the man who can do that becomes unstoppable. Because when your mind is organized, life becomes predictable. You begin to anticipate outcomes instead of reacting to surprises. You begin to see opportunities in places others overlook. You begin to act not from emotion, but from intention. Your brain is not a cage. It's a tool, but it must be sharpened, disciplined, and trained like steel under fire. Just as a soldier trains his body to endure pain, you must train your mind to endure uncertainty. You train it to think when others panic, to observe when others react, to calculate when others complain. That's how you rise above chaos. And training your brain doesn't require fancy techniques. It requires repetition and awareness. Every moment of your day is an opportunity to practice control. When you feel anger, practice detachment. When you feel fear, practice breathing. When you feel overwhelmed, practice focusing on the next step only. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you are rewiring your brain to think strategically. You begin to build a habit of pause, and inside that pause, power is born. That's what separates the average mind from the mastermind. The average mind gets trapped in emotion. The mastermind uses emotion as data, nothing more. When you stop fighting your feelings and start studying them, you gain control. You begin to understand your mind as a machine, one that follows commands, obey patterns, and responds to repetition. The more clearly you give it direction, the more efficiently it executes. Your thoughts are not you, they are instructions. And most people give their minds chaotic instructions all day. I can't. I'm tired. It's not working. Then they wonder why their life malfunctions. A trained mind speaks differently. It gives orders with precision. I am calm. I am in control. I will find a way. And because the subconscious follows command, reality begins to follow belief. If you want to outsmart any situation, begin here. Train your mind to obey you, not the other way around. Catch yourself when you react. Pause before you speak. Think one step further than everyone else. In every conversation, in every decision, ask yourself, what outcome am I choosing right now? Do this daily, because awareness compounds, and soon you'll notice something powerful. The world slows down around you. While others rush, you remain centered. While they react, you calculate. And when the storm comes, as it always does, your mind will no longer be the victim. It will be the weapon. The moment you realize that your brain can be trained like any muscle, you stop fearing situations and start mastering them. That's the hidden power of a trained mind. It doesn't need luck. It creates it. It doesn't beg for peace. It commands it, because when your mind is disciplined, life obeys. There is a reason why some people always seem 2 steps ahead in business, in life, even in crisis. They don't have more luck. They don't even have more knowledge. They have something far rarer, strategic intelligence. Strategic intelligence is the ability to think beyond the moment. It's the discipline of seeing connections others miss, anticipating moves before they happen, and acting with calm precision while everyone else is still reacting emotionally. Napoleon Hill called this the organized use of intelligence. It's not raw intellect, it's directed intelligence. And like any form of mastery, it can be learned through law. There are 4 laws that govern all strategic minds. The moment you live by them, your thinking rises above the noise. You stop being a player and start becoming the one who designs the game. Law 1 systems, thinking learn to see the whole board. The average mind sees moments. The strategic mind sees systems. When a problem appears, most people fix the symptom and move on, only to face the same issue again later in a new disguise. But the man who thinks in systems asks, what pattern created this problem? Carnegie built his empire not by chasing profits, but by building systems, processes, people, principles that produced results on command. He didn't react to markets. He engineered them. When your brain learns to see connections between small events, you stop living reactively. You start operating like a chess player, seeing the entire board, not just your next move. Ask yourself daily, am I reacting to events or understanding the system that caused them? Train your brain to zoom out before you zoom in. That's how clarity is born. Law 2, temporal thinking. Play. The long game short-term thinkers chase results. Long-term thinkers build legacies. Every decision carries two timelines: immediate satisfaction or eventual greatness. Most people pick the first. Winners choose the second. Henry Ford lost millions before his company became a success. But he thought in decades, not days. He understood that time is the ally of the disciplined. Temporal intelligence means asking not what feels right now, but what creates the future. I want 5 years from now. Train your brain to stretch time. When emotion screams for instant results, remind yourself delay is not defeat, it's preparation. The mind that plays the long game always wins, because while others chase moments, he builds momentum. Law 3, probabilistic thinking. Learn to think in chances, not certainties. The world doesn't run on guarantees. It runs on probabilities. The average man sees everything as win or lose, right or wrong. But the strategist understands life is a game of odds. Warren Buffett doesn't ask, will this stock succeed? He asks, what's the probability that this decision creates value over time? That single shift removes fear. Because once you think in probabilities, you stop needing perfection. You start playing the law of large numbers, make enough smart bets, and success becomes inevitable. Train your brain to detach from outcome and focus on process. Ask yourself, what's the upside if I'm right? What's the cost if I'm wrong? Then act accordingly. Because success doesn't come from being right all the time. It comes from making moves that keep you in the game long enough for your odds to pay off. Law 4, leverage, thinking, multiply. Don't add. The untrained mind works harder. The strategic mind works smarter. Leverage is the secret power of all successful thinkers, using tools, time, systems, and people to multiply results without multiplying effort. Thomas Edison didn't invent just one light bulb. He built a laboratory of minds working in unison, multiplying his intelligence. Carnegie didn't move steel himself. He leveraged people who believed in his vision. Modern builders use code, capital, and content as leverage. Ask yourself, what can I create once that keeps working even when I rest? That question separates the wealthy from the worn out. Leverage turns effort into empire. When you combine these 4 laws, systems, temporal, probabilistic, and leverage, your brain begins to think like the world's great strategists. You start to anticipate instead of react. You see opportunity where others see chaos. You stay calm where others collapse. You make one move that counts instead of 100 that waste time. And slowly, your environment begins to shift. People start seeking your perspective. Opportunities come to you, not because of luck, but because your thinking commands respect. This is the power of strategic intelligence. It is the ultimate evolution of the human mind, from reactive to predictive, from fragile to unshakable. Because when you train your brain to think strategically, you no longer fight circumstances, you design them. Most people are not thinking, they're remembering, they're repeating the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same emotional loops day after day, and they call it a personality. But it's not personality, it's programming. Your brain is a magnificent machine, capable of genius, yet by default, it runs on autopilot. It conserves energy by reusing old patterns, re-triggering old emotions, and recycling old behaviors. That's why your life feels repetitive, not because destiny is fixed, but because your thinking is, you wake up, you check your phone, you scroll, compare, react, You replay yesterday's worries, rehearse tomorrow's fears, and wonder why nothing changes. But nothing can change until you interrupt the pattern. Because here's the truth, your brain doesn't want transformation, it wants predictability. It equates sameness with safety. So the moment you try to change, your subconscious triggers resistance. It's too hard. What if I fail? Maybe later. That isn't your intuition speaking. That's your old identity defending its survival. The man who wants to master his mind must learn to catch this moment, the split second between awareness and reaction, and use it. Because in that tiny space lies all your power. The untrained mind reacts automatically. The trained mind observes before responding. That 1 second pause is evolution itself. Every time you pause, you tell your subconscious, I'm no longer your prisoner. I'm your commander. And with repetition, your brain rewires. Neurons that once fired for fear now fire for focus. Circuits built for anxiety now build confidence. Because the mind doesn't care what you think, it only obeys what you repeat. That's why awareness is everything. Without awareness, you are a puppet of habit. With awareness, you become the author of destiny. Ask yourself right now, how many of my thoughts are actually mine? How many are inherited from parents, friends, society, culture, voices that never belonged to me in the first place? The moment you question them, you weaken their control. And the moment you replace them, you begin to reprogram your future. Start simple. When fear appears, observe it. Don't fight it. Don't judge it. Don't drown in it. Just say, I see you, but I choose differently. When your ego demands to be right, pause. When anger rises, breathe. When laziness whispers, move anyway. These small acts of rebellion against autopilot build mental freedom. You will notice that your awareness becomes stronger than your impulses. That's how mastery begins, not by controlling life, but by controlling attention. Because whatever you give attention to grows. If you feed your fears, they flourish. If you feed your focus, it sharpens. And soon, your brain begins to serve you instead of sabotage you. Understand this, your subconscious is not your enemy, it's your student. It learns from your example. If you keep repeating distraction, it will master it. If you repeat discipline, it will master that instead. So each morning, you must teach it how to think. You must command it with intention. Before the world intrudes, before the noise of notifications. Spend 5 minutes in silence. Ask yourself, what kind of person am I training my brain to become today? Because you are always training your brain whether you realize it or not. The only question is training it for what? You can train it for reaction or for response, for fear or for faith, for chaos or for clarity. Every moment is a fork in the road between old programming and conscious creation. When you act on autopilot, you surrender power. When you act with awareness, you reclaim it. That's the real difference between ordinary people and those who build extraordinary lives. Not intelligence, not resources, awareness. It's the same principle monks use to attain peace, and the same law billionaires use to make decisions under pressure. They have trained their minds to remain awake while the world sleeps. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, distracted, emotional, stop. Don't rush to fix the feeling, just notice it. Because the moment you notice the program, you are no longer the program. And once you can observe your thoughts without becoming them, you become unstoppable. You will walk into chaos, calm at you will stand in conflict composed. You will face failure strategic, because the man who is awake within his mind cannot be controlled by circumstance. He doesn't react to life, he directs it. Awareness is the great separator. The masses live by reaction. The masters live by design. Train your brain to wake up, and the world will finally make sense. The hardest battle you will ever fight isn't with the world, it's with your own brain. Your brain is ancient. It was designed to keep your ancestors alive, not to make you wise, fulfilled, or wealthy, and that means, by default, it plays defense, it scans for danger, avoids discomfort, and resists uncertainty, even when that uncertainty could lead to greatness. Your brain is a master of survival, but unless you retrain it, it will always outsmart you. It lies to protect you. It tells you that staying the same is safe. It convinces you that waiting is wise. It tricks you into believing that overthinking equals preparation. But that's not logic. That's fear wearing a mask of intelligence. To outsmart the world, you must first outsmart yourself, and that begins with understanding the invisible traps built into your own mind, the cognitive biases that distort your thinking, sabotage your decisions, and keep you from seeing truth as it is. Let's expose them. 1. The confirmation trap. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are. Your brain constantly looks for evidence that proves you're right even when you're wrong. It filters reality to confirm your beliefs, not challenge them. If you believe opportunities are rare, you'll miss them even when they're right in front of you. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll interpret kindness as manipulation, and if you believe success is for others, your brain will quietly make sure you never reach for it. The only way out is awareness. Every time you feel certain, pause and ask, am I seeing truth or just protecting my beliefs? The trained mind questions itself more than it questions others. That's why it grows. 2. The comfort illusion. Your brain equates comfort with safety, but comfort is the silent killer of progress. It whispers, stay where you are. You're doing fine. Yet fine is where dreams die. Hill called it drifting, the slow death of a man who confuses movement with progress. Your brain rewards routine because it's predictable. But predictability is the opposite of evolution. To outsmart this bias, you must learn to reinterpret discomfort. When fear rises, don't retreat, reframe it. Say, this isn't danger. This is growth. That single shift turns every challenge into training. 3. The short-term trap. The human brain craves instant reward. That's why people scroll endlessly, buy impulsively, and quit prematurely. Your mind was not built to wait. It wants dopamine now. But all lasting success exists on the other side of delayed gratification. Carnegie built stale fortunas over decades. Ford tested hundreds of engines before the Model T ever moved. Edison failed 10,000 times before one bulb burned. You must train your brain to play the long game. When you feel the urge for instant relief, breathe. Then choose the long-term move. That one pause rewires your reward system from temporary pleasure to permanent power. Remember, comfort satisfies the moment. But, discipline, satisfie destiny. 4. The comparison bias. Your brain constantly measures your worth by others. It evolved that way. Social survival once depended on belonging, but in the modern world, comparison is mental poison. Every time you compare, you rob your brain of gratitude and focus. You lose energy, chasing what others have instead of building what's yours. The mind that compares cannot create. It reacts to others' pace instead of controlling its own. To outsmart this bias, create internal metrics, measure progress by consistency, not applause, by discipline, not validation. The only real competition is between who you were yesterday and who you decide to become today. 5. The I'll start later bias. This is the most dangerous one. It sounds harmless, even reasonable. I'll start when I'm ready. I'll wait until I have more time. I'll take action after I learn more. But later never comes. Because waiting doesn't make you ready. Action does. Your brain delays to avoid uncertainty. But in doing so, it guarantees stagnation. The strategist knows momentum is worth more than motivation. He acts first and adjusts later. Don't wait for clarity to begin. Clarity comes from beginning. When you expose these biases, you begin to see how the mind manipulates you, not maliciously, but instinctively. It's trying to protect you. But protection and progress rarely walk the same path. To outsmart your own brain is to become the watcher, the calm observer who can say, I feel fear, but I will not obey it. I see doubt, but I will not identify with it. I hear excuses, but I will not follow them. And the more you practice this, the more power you gain, because you can't control every situation, but you can always control your interpretation of it. And the one who controls interpretation controls reality. That's why mental training is the foundation of every empire. A calm, conscious mind can turn chaos into advantage, failure into strategy, and obstacles into leverage. Outsmarting your brain doesn't mean ignoring emotion. It means mastering it. It means using reason to guide feeling, not letting feeling dictate reason. And once you learn this, nothing outside of you can truly shake you again. The man who masters his mind, Hill wrote, can master anything else. Your brain can be your greatest enemy or your greatest ally. The choice is yours. A mind without structure is like a library without shelves. Information may exist, but wisdom cannot stay organized. This is why most people drown in knowledge, yet starve for clarity. They consume endlessly, read constantly, chase every new idea, but they never build a framework to connect it all. That's where mental models come, in the invisible architecture of great thinkers. Mental models are the maps of how the world works. They help you simplify complexity, predict consequences, and make better decisions with less effort. Every great mind, from Carnegie to Buffett, from Edison to Musk, uses them. They don't rely on memory. They rely on systems of thought. When Napoleon Hill studied the titans of his age, he discovered that all of them, consciously or not, used structured thinking. They didn't just react to facts, they processed them through principles. That's why their decisions looked effortless, and why their results looked inevitable. The law of structure, how the mind compounds intelligence. Your brain loves shortcuts. It looks for patterns, builds habits, and connects ideas. That's its genius. But when left untrained, it connects randomly. It creates emotional loops, not logical frameworks, mental models. Discipline that chaos. They give your brain a lens, a structure, to see reality clearly. When you apply the right model, everything becomes simpler. It's like changing lenses on a camera. Suddenly, what was blurry becomes sharp. Model 1, the feedback loop. Every result you get in life is feedback. Most people see results as judgment. I failed. I'm not good enough. But a trained mind sees results as information. Carnegie didn't react to losses. He studied them. He used every outcome as a teacher. That's why he grew faster than competitors. He learned faster. A feedback loop is simple: action, result, reflection, adjustment. You run this loop over and over until success becomes automatic. That's not luck. That's engineering. When something doesn't work, ask, what is this teaching me? That single question transforms frustration into data. Model 2, first principles. Thinking most minds copy what works for others. The mastermind deconstructs what works and rebuilds it from truth. Elon Musk uses first principles to design rockets, but you can use it to design your life. Ask, what do I know for certain? What assumptions am I accepting without proof? When you strip a problem down to its basics and you stop solving symptoms and start solving causes, you no longer follow trends, you set them. Hill called this accurate thinking, the ability to separate facts from opinions, cause from effect. The man who thinks from first principles will always outthink the man who copies. Model 3, the inversion principle. If you want to succeed, study failure. If you want to be happy, study what makes people miserable and avoid it. This is inversion thinking. It's the art of solving problems backward. Instead of asking, how can I win? Ask, what would guarantee I lose? Then remove those actions. Charlie Munger, Buffett's partner, said it best: all I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. Inversion removes unnecessary mistakes. It trains your brain to detect danger before it appears. That's how you outsmart life itself. Model 4, the 80/20 law. Not everything matters equally. In fact, 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. But most people waste their focus on the trivial many instead of the vital few. The strategic mind asks, which few actions produce the greatest leverage? Then he cuts everything else. Napoleon Hill wrote that success requires definiteness of purpose, and the 80/20 rule is how you enforce it. When you identify your top 20%, you train your brain to think like a general, not a soldier. You stop reacting to every battle and start winning the war. Model 5, the compounding effect. The average man underestimates time. He overestimates today and underestimates tomorrow. But everything compounds: thoughts, habits, skills, results. Carnegie built steel by compounding systems. Buffett built wealth by compounding patience. Edison built innovation by compounding failure. Every repetition strengthens your neural pathways. Each disciplined thought reinforces clarity. That's why mental mastery isn't built in a day, it's earned through compounding awareness. The man who trains his mind daily multiplies his power without even noticing. When you start to apply mental models, thinking becomes easier. You no longer drown in chaos, you navigate it. You no longer chase every idea, you test it through principle. And your mind becomes a structured force of creation. That's why Hill wrote, the man who organizes his thoughts organizes his destiny. Because the brain without models reacts, the brain with models creates. So build your mental architecture. Start simple. Keep your 5 favorite models visible every day on your desk. Your wall, your phone. Use them until they become instinct. Then watch how life begins to make sense, not because it got easier, but because you got organized. A trained mind doesn't see problems, it sees patterns. And when you master those patterns, you don't just survive life, you outthink it. Every great thinker shares one secret: they don't think like everyone else. They strip away assumptions, question traditions, and rebuild truth from the ground up. This is called thinking from first principles. Napoleon Hill called it accurate thinking. Elon Musk calls it first principles reasoning. But they both point to the same law. Don't accept borrowed beliefs. Test them. Most people think by analogy. They ask, what have others done? And then copy it. But the mind that copies never creates. It simply repeats the errors of others with better execution. The man who thinks from first principles asks, what do I know for certain? What is true? Regardless of opinion, fear, or tradition. He doesn't start from comfort, he starts from clarity. When Ford said he could build a car the average man could afford, everyone laughed. They said it was impossible. No one had done it before. But Ford wasn't bound by what had been done. He started with the question, what would it take to make it real? That's first principles. It's reasoning from truth, not imitation. Edison used the same law when he was told a light bulb that could burn for hours was a fantasy. He didn't argue. He experimented. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 1,0,0,0,0 ways that won't work. That's first principles in action. Test reality. Until it obeys, your brain loves shortcuts. It trusts what's worked before, but progress only happens when someone dares to question why. That's how every revolution begins. One person refusing to think in second-hand truths. When you train your mind to think from first principles, you stop chasing opinions and start seeking evidence. You stop following trends and start creating them. Every decision becomes sharper. Every goal becomes cleaner. Because now, your foundation is reality, not rumor. Ask yourself, what do I truly know? What am I assuming? Because everyone else assumes it. If I had to rebuild this idea from scratch, what would it look like? That's how you uncover truth hidden beneath the noise. Thinking from first principles isn't rebellion, it's intelligence. It doesn't mean rejecting wisdom. It means rebuilding it for yourself. It means you learn to think with the great minds, not through them. Carnegie didn't become the richest man of his era. By doing what others did, he simplified the entire steel industry down to one truth. Control the process, and you control the profit. He built everything from that one principle. That's how empires are born, not from complexity, but from clarity. To live this way, you must develop courage, because when you start thinking for yourself, you'll stand alone for a while. The crowd will resist you, because your independence threatens their comfort. But truth doesn't need approval, it only needs obedience. First principles thinking is your tool against confusion. It's how you cut through fear, in trend, and illusion. When others panic, you ask better questions. When others copy, you create. When others stop, you refine. And that's why first principles thinkers always rise to the top, because while the masses chase methods, they chase truth. The man who thinks clearly Hill wrote, dominates those who act blindly. When you learn to think from first principles, you stop guessing. You start designing. You stop asking, can I do this? You start asking, what law must I obey to make it real? That's how creation works, not by faith alone, but by understanding the foundations upon which faith stands. So strip away assumptions. Question everything. Rebuild from the roots, and you'll soon discover the man who thinks from first principles can solve anything. Every man believes he can make good decisions until pressure arrives. Then fear enters the room. Logic disappears, and emotion takes the wheel. The truth is, anyone can think clearly when things are calm, but only the trained mind can think clearly when the storm hits. That's what separates amateurs from masters, not intelligence, but composure. And composure is not natural, it's trained. The brain under pressure defaults to survival. It floods with adrenaline, narrows perception, and drives impulsive choices. That's why people panic, overreact, or freeze, not because they're weak, but because they've never practiced staying still when everything screams for movement. Napoleon Hill called it self-control in the face of emotion. He wrote, the man who can keep his head when all others are losing theirs commands power that few understand. So how do you train that power? How do you become the one who decides wisely when others are falling apart? Step 1, slow the system. When tension hits, your instinct is to rush. Your thoughts race. Your pulse accelerates. Your breath shortens. That's the body hijacking the mind. You must do the opposite. Slow down. Take 1 deep breath. Count backwards from 5. This tiny pause interrupts panic and gives your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, a chance to come back online. The man who pauses owns the moment, because while everyone else reacts, he observes. Step 2, separate emotion from information. Pressure is emotional, but emotion is not data, it's noise. When you feel overwhelmed, ask, what are the facts and what are my feelings about those facts? Write them down if you can. You'll notice something powerful. The problem is rarely as big as the emotion around it. Once you separate them, you gain perspective, and perspective is the birthplace of calm decision-making. Step 3, default to principles. When your emotions are high, never make a decision from memory. Make it from principle. A pilot doesn't argue with a storm. He follows procedure. He trusts the system that was built in clear weather. You must do the same. Have a short list of principles, your decision compass to guide you under stress. Examples. Never make permanent decisions based on temporary emotion. If it doesn't align with my long-term aim, it's a distraction. Facts before feelings. Calm is my advantage. Principles protect you when your emotions can't. Step 4, reduce the variables. Complexity kills clarity. When everything feels chaotic, simplify. Ask, what's the one move that matters most right now? Ignore the noise. Focus on what's actionable. The brain performs best when it handles one variable at a time. Great leaders don't solve everything, they solve the right thing first. Step 5, trust the process. Not the panic fear demands immediate control. Wisdom trusts the process. Under pressure, the untrained mind says, I need to fix this right now. The trained mind says, let me understand what's really happening first. Carnegie once said, he never made important decisions when he was angry, afraid, or tired, because temporary emotion can make permanent damage. He waited until his mind was steady. That waiting wasn't weakness. It was power disguised as patience. Step 6. Posture creates power. Your physiology affects your psychology. When your shoulders collapse and your breathing shortens, the brain interprets defeat. But when you lift your posture, breathe deeply, and stand firm, your body signals safety, and the mind follows. Every soldier, athlete, and CEO who performs under pressure uses this law: control the body, and the mind obeys. Try it now. Sit tall, breathe slow. Say silently, I am composed. I am in control. You'll feel your thoughts clear almost instantly. Step 7, reflect after. Learn always. Every high-pressure decision is a test, not of your knowledge, but of your conditioning. After it passes, review it. Ask, what did I feel? What did I think? What will I do differently next time? Reflection turns stress into strategy. Without it, pressure becomes trauma. With it, pressure becomes training. The world will always throw chaos your way, but the man who remains calm becomes the one everyone turns to. He doesn't react, he recalibrates. He doesn't fight emotion, he channels it. And slowly, his mind becomes unshakable, not because life got easier, but because his thinking got stronger. That's decision mastery. It's not just surviving the moment, it's turning the moment into mastery. In every crisis, Hill wrote, the seed of equal or greater opportunity is hidden. You can only see that seed if your mind is still enough to notice it. So train for stillness, because the calmest mind always wins. Most people live reactively. They move from one event to the next, surprised by every outcome as if life were random, but it isn't. Life leaves clues. Every success, every failure, every crisis follows patterns. And the person who sees those patterns first controls the game. Napoleon Hill called this organized intelligence the ability to see relationships where others see chaos. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's simply awareness trained to detect cause and effect before anyone else. The untrained mind sees events, the trained mind sees systems, and the strategic mind, the mind you're building right now, sees patterns of patterns. The law of repetition. Everything repeats until you learn the lesson. People repeat relationships. Businesses repeat mistakes. Nations repeat history. But the man who watches instead of reacts begins to notice, this isn't random. It's rhythm. Just as the ocean has tides, life has cycles: expansion, contraction, success, correction. If you study the cycles long enough, you stop fearing them. You start preparing for them. Carnegie did this with the steel market. He could sense when opportunity was about to rise because he studied what fear looked like before every boom. He knew when others panic, a cycle is turning. That's not intuition, that's pattern recognition. The power of observation. You can't see patterns if you're distracted. Silence isn't just peace, it's data collection. Most people scroll, react, talk. Few people watch quietly enough to notice. Train your brain to observe without judgment. Notice how people behave when they're winning and when they're losing. Notice how energy changes in conversations. Notice the small signals before big shifts. A great investor once said, by the time it's obvious, it's too late. Winners don't chase obvious trends. They act when something feels off. When 99% are still asleep, That instinct comes from pattern memory built through deliberate observation, pattern recognition in yourself. Patterns don't just exist out there. They live inside you. The same triggers, the same reactions, the same emotional loops until you consciously break them. If you keep facing the same problems in business, relationships, or motivation, you're not unlucky. You're repeating a pattern you haven't yet understood. Ask yourself, when do I tend to quit? What emotions lead me to sabotage my progress? What's the common thread between my setbacks? Awareness breaks, repetition. The moment you name the pattern, you weaken it, and once weakened, it can be redesigned. The advantage of foresight pattern recognition gives birth to foresight. Foresight isn't prediction, it's preparation. When you recognize patterns early, you stop reacting to life, you start anticipating it. That's how chess masters think. They don't see the current move, they see the chain of 10 possible moves ahead. It's the same in life. Every small choice today echoes into the future. When you think like this, chaos becomes signal. You start asking different questions. If this is happening now, what usually happens next? And slowly, you develop an eerie calm in crises, because while everyone else is surprised, you saw it coming. Connect the dots across domains. The rarest thinkers don't just see patterns in one field, they see how everything connects. Nature, business, relationships, psychology, all follow similar rhythms. Observe the economy long enough, and you'll recognize patterns in human emotion. Study biology deeply enough, and you'll understand resilience in leadership. It's all cause, effect, and adaptation. The man who connects insights across domains becomes unstoppable because he learns faster than anyone confined to a single perspective. That's why Hill said all truth can be reduced to patterns of energy. The mind that sees these energies moving sees life itself. From reaction to creation, pattern recognition transforms you from a reactor into a creator. You no longer fight against reality, you move with it. You sense when to push, when to pause, when to pivot. While others chase success, you time it. While others drown in noise, you listen for rhythm. Because in the end, life doesn't reward the loud. It rewards the aware. The man who can see one step ahead wins. The man who can see 10 changes the world. Success, Hill wrote, belongs to the man who anticipates, not the man who hesitates. Train your eyes, train your awareness, and one day you'll stop asking, why is this happening to me? You'll start saying, I saw this coming and I'm ready. You cannot master strategy until you master yourself, because no matter how intelligent you are, emotion will always test your logic. Every great strategist, from generals to entrepreneurs, had to learn one truth. Emotional control is the ultimate intelligence, not the suppression of feeling, but the understanding of it. Napoleon Hill wrote, the man who rules his mind may rule his destiny. That's emotional intelligence, not reacting to life, but responding with awareness. Most people think emotions are weaknesses. They try to bury them, hide them, ignore them. But emotions are not enemies, they are signals. They show you what you value, what you fear, what you must face. The goal is not to silence them, it's to translate them, to feel without being controlled, to think without being hijacked. Step 1, awareness before reaction. In any conflict, business decision, or personal struggle. The first person you must manage is you. When you feel anger, pause. When you feel fear, breathe. When you feel envy, observe. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Anger often means you feel powerless. Fear means you're standing near growth. Jealousy means you're not using your own potential. Awareness turns emotions from chaos into clarity. You stop drowning in them and start decoding them. Step 2, separate emotion from identity. You have emotions, but you are not your emotions. They visit, but they don't own you. The untrained mind says, I am angry. The trained mind says, anger is present. That tiny shift from identification to observation gives you power, because once you can see your emotion, you can choose your response. This is how leaders maintain calm when everyone else collapses. They've trained their awareness to stay one level above reaction. Step 3, emotional regulation. Once you can see emotions, you can shape them. And this is where true mastery begins. When stress rises, your body tightens, your breath shortens, your mind narrows. But if you slow your breath, your mind follows. If you open your posture, your energy shifts. Physiology rewires psychology. That's why soldiers, athletes, and CEOs train breathing as seriously as strategy. Next time you face pressure, I do this. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Repeat until your body returns to neutrality. Now your brain is ready to think again. Step 4. Emotional intelligence with others' strategy doesn't exist in isolation. You must navigate people, and people are emotional creatures. Emotional intelligence allows you to read energy in a room before words are spoken. It helps you sense tension, resistance, enthusiasm, the unspoken truth that logic alone misses. When you truly listen, not to reply, but to understand, you gain influence without force. You begin to see what motivates others' fear, pride, recognition, belonging. Then you lead them through their emotions, not against them. This is why some leaders move armies and others can't move a single mind, because emotion, not intellect, drives human behavior. Step 5, transform emotion into strategy. Once you master your emotional states, you can use them, channel frustration into focus, convert fear into alertness, turn sadness into reflection, direct passion into purpose. Your emotions are fuel, but only if you steer them. The mind that integrates emotion with logic creates extraordinary power, because now you're not just intelligent, you're aligned. Emotional intelligence isn't about being calm all the time. It's about returning to center faster than anyone else. It's the ability to feel deeply without losing clarity. When you can remain steady in the middle of chaos, you become magnetic. People trust your energy, even when they can't explain why. And that is the hidden key behind every great strategist. They don't dominate others. First, they dominate themselves. He who masters emotion, Hill wrote, masters energy. And energy, properly directed, becomes power. So train that power daily. Observe your triggers. Practice composure. Lead with awareness. Because once you learn to master emotion, you'll stop being reactive and start being unstoppable. The world is changing faster than ever before. Technology evolves, industries collapse, and ideas that once built empires now vanish overnight. In such a world, intelligence alone isn't enough. The real superpower is adaptability, the ability to adjust your thinking faster than the world changes. Napoleon Hill said, "The man who cannot adjust his thinking to new conditions will never progress," and he was right. Because success doesn't belong to the strongest or the smartest, it belongs to the most flexible. The rigid mind breaks, the adaptable mind bends, learns, and grows stronger. The law of change. Change is not your enemy. It's the environment where growth hides. Most people resist it because it threatens their comfort. But comfort is the silent killer of potential. It whispers, "Stay here. You're safe." And that whisper has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. The adaptable mind doesn't fear change, it studies it. It asks, "What is this moment trying to teach me? What new skill does this challenge demand?" instead of wishing for certainty. It learns to thrive in uncertainty. It doesn't fight the storm. It learns how to sail through it. Cognitive flexibility, the secret weapon. Your brain loves patterns. It craves repetition and routine. That's good for survival, but terrible for evolution. Cognitive flexibility is your ability to switch perspectives, update beliefs, and create new responses when the old ones stop working. Think of it like mental agility, the capacity to pivot instantly without losing balance. When something fails, most people ask, "Why didn't it work?" But the adaptable mind asks, "What else could work?" That's the question. Innovators, leaders, and visionaries live by. It's why some people drown in disruption, while others ride it like a wave. Unlearning. The forgotten skill adaptability isn't just learning, it's also unlearning. Because the hardest beliefs to release are the ones that used to work. The more successful you become, the more dangerous your old methods become. They once brought you here, but now they're chains. Hill called this the habit of open-mindedness. He said, "The person who stops learning starts dying." Ask yourself, what beliefs made sense 5 years ago but no longer serve me today? What methods am I defending because they make me feel secure, not because they still work? Real intelligence is the courage to outgrow yourself. Update your mental software. Your mind is like an operating system. If you don't update it, you'll crash when the world upgrades. Schedule time each week to question your assumptions. Challenge your own opinions. Read ideas that make you uncomfortable. Surround yourself with people who think differently. Discomfort is not danger, it's expansion. And every time your beliefs are tested, your capacity grows. Remember, strong opinions are fine, but they must remain loosely held. Confidence without flexibility becomes arrogance, and arrogance is the death of wisdom. The feedback advantage adaptable people learn faster because they value feedback more than pride. They don't see correction as criticism, they see it as calibration. Every piece of feedback, even painful ones, is a mirror showing you how reality sees you. And reality always wins. So instead of defending your old self, let feedback upgrade your next self. The quicker you adapt, the less resistance you face. That's why successful people seem lucky. They're not lucky, they're responsive. The power of reinvention. Adaptability is self-reinvention. It's the willingness to evolve again and again without losing your core. Your purpose remains constant, but your path may change 1,000 times. You might switch careers, cities, strategies, the relationships, But as long as your direction is growth, you are not lost. Think of every transformation as a new version of you. You 1.0, you 2.0, you 3.0, each smarter, calmer, and clearer than before. Carnegie once said that success is not final, it's a process of continual becoming, and that's the essence of adaptability, to live as if you're always a student of change. Resilience versus adaptability. Resilience is surviving the storm. Adaptability is learning to dance in the rain. Resilience says, I'll recover. Adaptability says, I'll rebuild better. One resists, the other transforms. And in a world of constant change, transformation is survival, flexibility of mind. Hill wrote, is the bridge between defeat and destiny. So stay flexible. When the plan breaks, adjust the plan, not the purpose. When life shifts, shift with it. Don't shatter under it. The mind that adapts cannot be defeated, because no matter how many times life changes, it always finds a way forward. You don't need to know everything about the future. You just need to be ready to evolve when it arrives. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And that is the highest form of intelligence. You've just walked through the battlefield of the mind. You've learned how to train it, discipline it, and turn it into your greatest weapon. Most people never do. They let their thoughts run wild, how their emotions control them, and their fears dictate their future. But not you, not anymore. You now understand how to slow your thinking, how to break mental autopilot, how to catch your biases, and how to make clear decisions under pressure. You've learned to recognize patterns, to master emotion, to adapt with precision, and to think from first principles like a creator, not a follower. This is what separates the average mind from the strategic mind, and once your mind is trained to think this way, you stop reacting to life and start commanding it. The man who controls his mind, Napoleon Hill wrote, controls the conditions and circumstances of his life. Every fortune, every breakthrough, every miracle begins here, in the silence between thought and decision, in the moment you choose strategy over emotion, in the second you refuse to drift and decide to think deliberately. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs clarity. It needs people who can lead with calm intelligence, with quiet conviction, with purpose. People like you. So as you leave this message, remember, your brain is not your master. It's your instrument. Train it every day. Feed it powerful thoughts. Challenge it. Strengthen it. And when life throws chaos your way, smile, because now you know how to outsmart it. If this message awakens something in you, don't let it fade. Share it. Rewatch it.